If you're new here, I'm Leah, and I've gone from this to this and lost 140 pounds. So I know a thing or two about weight loss. And you'll see me in the gym all the time, but the truth is the majority of weight loss happens outside of the gym. The gym really is just there to help me build and maintain muscle as I lose the weight, but especially with strength training, you're not really burning a lot of calories doing it. Today, I'm gonna tell you exactly how to lose weight without exercising. My disclaimer is that I think everyone should be active for their health, and I especially really recommend strength training if you're on your weight loss journey so that you're maintaining that muscle. But I preach that in all my other videos. So I'm gonna take a break from that for this one and just break down the logistics of this. So let's dive in. The first thing I wanna talk about is NEAT, which stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Basically what that is the calories that you're burning when you're not doing any sort of exercise. This can be you moving around at your standing desk, you fidgeting throughout the day, doing chores, cooking. When you're doing these things and moving around, your body is naturally burning calories. So a great thing that we can do is increase our NEAT. Basically just dialing up the non-exercise activity we're getting in throughout the day already. One of the best ways to do that is getting in the 10K steps per day. I know this technically comes from like some Japanese marketing campaign, but there is really some truth to it because if you increase your steps from 4K to 10K steps per day, you could burn an extra 200 to 300 calories per day. If you're doing that every day, you could lose like over half a pound per week just from that. So it's not nothing. This kind of stuff really does compound. So it's really great to be more intentional with your movement, and it's just gonna feel good too. But if getting your steps in is such a great goal and everyone's talking about it, why isn't everyone actually doing it? I've seen someone on TikTok say that this is just like not an attainable thing for people to do. And I personally disagree. I think if you really want to get the 10K steps in, there are absolutely ways that you can do it. Whether that's going on a morning walk, going on multiple walks throughout the day, even just circling around your house. But let's be honest, sometimes weather gets in the way. I know firsthand because in Boston, if it's snowing in the winter, it's so hard to get my steps in. Or you don't have access to a treadmill to walk on at the gym. Or like you work from home, you're very sedentary, you're super busy, and you just don't have the time to go out for a walk. And all that stuff can make it really hard to stay consistent and actually get the 10K steps per day. But one thing I absolutely think is worth the investment is a walking pad. I recently got the Merach ultrawalk W60 Plus, and guys, this is like better than any walking pad I have ever tried before. And I've had a walking pad. Usually my experience is that they're pretty fragile and you can't really do much on them. But this one, guys, this one kind of changes the game. I'm like, I don't even know if I need to go do the treadmill at the gym anymore. It honestly feels like an amazing treadmill and not like just a standard walking pad. And it's got the stacks to back that up. We got a 3.5 HP peak motor, which means this thing can handle intensity. And with 1.25 continuous horsepower, this thing can sustain your activity for a long time. It's got a brushless motor, which makes it last longer since it's not wearing down on anything on the inside, and it also makes it a lot quieter. And it's also got a hall sensor, so it's not jerking around when you step on it or anything weird like that. The two of the things that I love about this are the speed and the incline range, because honestly, a lot of walking pads you can only go super slow on, but this one goes from 0.6 miles per hour to 4 miles per hour. The incline is absolutely amazing. I didn't even know you could get a walking pad with an incline, so this genuinely blew my mind. But the fact that makes it so amazing, it goes up to 12, which means you can do a whole 12-3-30 on this thing, which you guys know I love to do a 12-3-30 on an active rest day. So the fact that I can do that at home now without having to go to the gym, chef's kiss, absolutely amazing. And what a great calorie burner. It's also got built-in wheels, so it's super easy to transport, slide under your desk, or slide under your couch or bed for storage. And it also actually stores upright. So if you live in a small apartment like me and you need to save some floor space, it's perfect. You can control it with the remote that it comes with or with the app, which is my personal favorite because it literally gives you a screen, guys, like you're using a treadmill. And it sits with my health app and my fitness tracker. So I know I'm getting like the most accurate data possible. And whether you're using the app or just looking at the W60 yourself, the LEDs actually will display the incline, the time, the speed, everything you gotta know right on the walking pad. And you can pause and resume without losing your data. So if you have to jump to a meeting and you wanna pause and just stand on it for a little bit, you can absolutely do that and still continue when you're done. It's also not super easy to like bump into and start. You have to use a manual switch and long press to start it. So it's got a great child lock on it. And if you wanna get fun with it, it's got a built-in Bluetooth speaker and RGB lighting that will sync up to your pace and your music. So whether you're just trying to get your NEAT up while you're walking on it, while you're working or watching TV, or you wanna do something intense like a 12-3-30 at home, the Merach ultrawalk W60 Plus is a great choice. I've got the silver one. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I was so happy when Merach reached out to sponsor this video and I got to try it out and see how amazing it is myself. And I highly recommend grabbing one of these, guys. It honestly is amazing. And I'll drop the link in the description so you can check it out yourself. And a huge thanks to Merach for sponsoring today's video. All right, we talked about getting your NEAT up, which is a great way to get some extra calories burned. But one of the most important places we're gonna be on this journey is in the kitchen. So let's talk nutrition, guys, because I know a lot of you guys like wanna kind of do the gym thing or focus on the gym, but what you're eating is honestly the most important part of your weight loss journey. You guys in the accountability group Discord actually asked me some great questions that I'm gonna run through. If you're not in there already, guys, there's like over 2,000 of you holding each other accountable, checking in when you go to work out, sharing all your meal ideas. So I definitely recommend joining if you're not already in there. But anyways, let's dive into the questions. So Lex asks, I would definitely love to know what kind of metrics you look for when exercise isn't possible and healthy ways to determine macros and calories. Also, I don't expect you to be an expert. Please make sure to mention exceptions regarding chronic illnesses if you can. A great call out, Lex. Yes, of course. If you're struggling with anything like a chronic illness, definitely when you're watching my videos especially, take what you can and leave what you can't. We're all at different places in our journey and we all have different abilities and access to things. But I do want to answer Lex's question because the metrics that I recommend you look for are, like we talked about before, I really recommend getting your steps in if you're able to. It's just a great movement goal to have. And it's less about the number and more just about having like an attainable goal to look at. And then yes, macros and calories are honestly the biggest one when it comes to weight loss, because like I always say, you cannot outrun a bad diet. All right. There's like, honestly, it's really hard to out exercise what you're eating because it's so easy to eat a lot of calories. You guys seen the Oreo Dream Extreme cheesecake? I think that thing has 1,500 calories in it and I could eat 5 of those a day. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Like it's so easy to eat. And so it's really great to just tackle that because it's also so easy to reduce the amount of calories you're eating if you know what to look for. So I'll drop a calorie calculator in the description down below. You can honestly just look up calorie calculator online though. And it'll often ask you for your height and your activity level, your age, all of that kind of stuff. And it'll give you the estimated calories that you should be eating. Also, if you're using a calorie counting app like I do, a lot of the times it'll estimate that for you. A lot of you guys ask which one I use. I actually use MacroFactor. I have a code with them. You can use code Leah Macro for an extended 2-week free trial. A lot of times when we're using a calorie calculator, like it's just an estimate. I think one of the things that we tend to do too when we're using these calorie calculators for the first time is we kind of overshoot our activity. Like if you go to the gym 3 times a week, but the rest of the time you're sitting at home or you're sitting at work and you're not super active, like you're more than likely sedentary. And I think a lot of the times it's like 2 to 3 times a week is like lightly active or something like that. Like I think we kind of shoot our activity over sometimes than what we're actually getting. So that's something to keep in mind. And a reason I like MacroFactor is that it adjusts to that. But like you can just kind of keep that in mind. And if you want to do this manually, you can just track your weight as a trend over time. And if you're not losing any weight, you can start reducing your calorie deficit by small amounts. So that's how I would go about getting the calories that you're meant to get. MacroFactor will also give you the protein amount, but you can also just do that manually. I think the guideline is 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. I said this in my last video, but if you're significantly overweight like I was for my height at 275 pounds, I've seen it recommended to go by your goal weight instead, just because like, guys, there's no way I was eating 275 grams of protein per day. All right, that was not about to happen. So that's the recommendation. Figure out what works for you. And again, like don't feel like you need to do everything all at once. I recommend eating higher protein for muscle retention. I also got a question about protein. One of you guys asked, Jayuya asked, I have yet to hit the gym, so I don't do much exercise. How much protein should one have if you aren't doing exercise? Is it still beneficial to hit plus 100 grams of protein a day? So I would say, I think, again, I'm not a medical professional. I would say, yes, I think it's always great to eat high protein for muscle retention, even if you're not going in the gym, as much as I do recommend going in the gym and strength training to keep that muscle. I still think it's great to eat high protein. Also, protein just tends to be more filling. So even though we're kind of in a high protein epidemic right now, I do think eating more protein is just great regardless of if you're training or not. And Zach Attack asked about the calorie deficit and said, I lost 10 pounds, but the last 1.5 months, my weight has stayed the same despite being in a deficit in strength training and hitting my steps. First of all, you're doing an amazing job. So do not get down about it. This is one thing that we also have to keep in mind with the calorie deficit is as we lose the weight, we may have to lower the deficit. So you might want to be recalculating your deficit every so often because sometimes the plateau can just come from when you're smaller, you burn less calories. And so I had to adjust my calorie deficit a decent amount throughout my journey. But like I mentioned before, you can also just try reducing your calorie deficit by a smaller amount, maybe like by 100 calories and see how that goes if you get any movement. But also definitely be patient with yourself because our weight also fluctuates. So you definitely have to track it as a trend over time. It's going to be hard to see like week to week progress. It's going to be easier to see that over a couple months. Mila Me also asked about a calorie deficit and what food swaps I found to make the lifestyle change easier. I actually have an entire video on food swaps that I highly recommend checking out. I'll put it like up here wherever the cards show up. Definitely recommend checking that video because I go really in depth onto food swaps, but you guys know I love Greek yogurt. If you can mix cottage cheese into things, guys, I don't like the texture of cottage cheese, but if you blend it up and you can put it into sauce, you're not gonna taste it, it's totally fine. Swapping for leaner cuts of meat, all that kind of stuff. But I go way more in depth on that video, so I'll put it up there and link it in the description. Brie asks, at what point does your deficit get so small that weight loss becomes impossible without exercise? It doesn't. I really do think that this is a myth that like you can eat so little that your body holds on to fat. I haven't really seen a lot of evidence supporting this. That being said, I don't think you should be eating so little that that becomes a problem. We are meant to be properly fueling our bodies with food, and we should not be chasing quick weight loss, all right? I don't know what your deficit is, so I can't really speak to like what would be too little of a deficit. You know, you can always, like I said, get your NEAT up, but it might be a thing where you just need to lower your calories by a little bit. But again, I'm not a professional. I'm just a girl who lost a lot of weight that is giving you advice from what I've learned. So please, if you're really struggling, talk to a doctor or a professional because I know a lot of stuff, but I don't know freaking everything, guys. All right, then we got some questions about mindset when it comes to eating. Allie asked, how to stay on track when you hit your calorie goal but are still hungry and wanting to eat? How do you fight the urges? The deficit I have myself in is very reasonable. But mentally, when I hit the calorie goal, I have an urge to eat over. And I think that could also be because I'm used to eating 300 to 500 calories more than my deficit. So a couple things I want to say here. One, 300 to 500 calories under what you're used to eating just might be too much to get started. That's one thing, guys, with setting a deficit is if you're really, really struggling to stay consistent, it's way better to be like in a 100 calorie deficit that you'll be consistent with than it is to be in a 500 calorie deficit that you're going to give up on in a week. So you might just want to lower your deficit so it feels a little bit less intense. And then another thing is we kind of just have to train our brains. There are plenty of times, guys, where I've gone to bed hungry. I know people will like kind of get annoyed when I say that, but like it's not about like I'm not starving. Like that's why tracking is so great because you can tell that you've eaten enough. And a lot of the times like it's just about retraining our body to understand hunger cues. Now honestly, it can just be a difficult thing to do, but I feel like especially in the beginning, like that first 50 pounds, I just had to go to bed hungry sometimes, guys. And so that's what I would say is that like, it's okay to kind of be hungry, especially in the beginning. I think it gets way easier later down the line when you're kind of used to pushing past that feeling. But in the beginning, it can feel like, oh my God, I need to eat, I need to eat. But tracking, like I said, is great because you can absolutely 100% know that you've eaten enough to sustain your life, all right? You're not actually starving. You just kind of feel like eating a little bit. I hope that makes sense. Blendy Bunny asked, one thing I've always admired about your mindset is how balanced it seems. Have you ever struggled with guilt around resting or missing workouts or even walking? And if so, what helped you stop tying your self-worth or progress to being perfect? I think this is a great question. I'm kind of a try-hard in life, to be honest. Like I really, really love committing to stuff and just like really working at it. But I definitely struggled, especially in the beginning. And I also think this definitely kind of would hurt me when it comes to the gym. I've talked about this before, but one thing is like when I was first in a calorie deficit that I learned was not good very quickly is if I was eating under the amount of calories. So say I was supposed to eat 1,700 calories a day and I ate 1,500, I'd be like, ooh, oh my God, like skinny legend. And then I learned, girl, that is just not the move because then I would just be super hungry later in the week. And so like I was kind of tying my self-worth to like being under the deficit when it's like, girl, the goal should just be to be within that deficit and hitting the goal. And I learned quick, trust me, but like eating less isn't the goal. It's like, obviously you're eating a calorie deficit. So like it technically is the goal, but you know what I mean? Eating as little as possible is not the goal. Eating in a healthy, sustainable deficit is the goal. When it comes to missing workouts, like I would feel so guilty all of the time. And one way I kind of get rid of that guilt is I have like designated rest days. So like I have it added into my program. So it's not like I just choose on a whim to rest. It's actually already factored into my program. I feel like this ended up helping out with guilt because I treated resting as a part of what I was doing. You guys, rest and sleep is so, so important for your workouts. So I treated it like part of the program and not like a break from the program. But also on tying self-worth to progress and being perfect, like that's just something that I learned. Killing an all or nothing mindset. You are gonna mess up. I fall off all the time. Like I'll travel and then I'll fall off on the meal prep and I'll be Uber Eatsing for a week or like I'll have trouble kind of getting back into the gym or I'll be able to push myself as much, you know, like, or I'll get sick and I'll fall off. Like there are things like, you know, sometimes like we end up just kind of slacking because we're human and like we maybe just need a mental break, or sometimes there are things out of our control like traveling or getting sick that are just going to come in the way. And so it's impossible to be perfect no matter what you do, because no matter what, something will happen that will get in the way. What matters is really being able to get back on track. And the way to do that is to really build a sustainable lifestyle and sustainable habits to where it doesn't feel monumental to get back on track when you fall off. It's like, oh, like I just got to get back into my routine. And now for me, I honestly crave the routine. So it's absolutely possible to get there. But on the progress and being perfect, like you will never be perfect. I hate to break it to you. I hated to break it to myself, but something is always better than nothing. So whether it's just going to the gym and hitting one exercise, walking on the treadmill for 15 minutes, whether it's eating meal prep for one meal per day, doing any of that is better than doing none of it at all. And especially when we're at the beginning of our journey, guys, like this is all stuff like that's new and that we're gonna learn. And it takes time to really develop these habits. So don't waste time getting down on yourself and letting falling off become an excuse to not keep putting effort in. So hopefully, as you've seen today, most of the weight loss progress is gonna come from outside of the gym, whether it's doing small things to get your NEAT up, like investing in an awesome walking pad, or really dialing in on your nutrition and setting a sustainable calorie deficit. You'll absolutely get there. And be patient with yourself and give it some real time. If you want to see daily content from me, you can follow me over on my Instagram. I post stories like literally every single day there. If you want to be held accountable, guys, I'd be clocking in every time I go to the gym on Instagram, okay? I'd be posting everything on there. Also, I'd love if you guys could leave a comment. Let me know what are some habits that you're working on developing or things that you feel like you're struggling with. If you made it this far in the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button because like you obviously like the video, duh. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.